All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. It is a Free State Friday, not a Friday. Well, it's a Free State Friday, free for all. Carlos, how are you today?
Good. So glad to be here again. I feel like it's been way too long, Hal. Way too long.
Well, you kind of play games. You're on Friday, then you're on Monday, then it's Friday again. I don't know what's going on here. I think it's very confusing for me, Carlos. I'm a very simple person. I need everything to be the same every week, and I don't know. I also was sick. I was sick for over a week. We had a lot of issues we've been dealing with in my household. So been kind of a rough year all in all. But right now, I'm actually feeling kind of good about things.
Good. And you've been feeling better, like healthy wise and all that?
Well, I still have that congestion, but it's slowly. I get these colds and they can last for weeks. It's very unpleasant. I think why I'm feeling a little better, Carlos, we had a problem. We have the new addition to the family. I showed you Dolly, my dog, and she got hurt, and I was very concerned about her. She's doing better now, so that's kind of a load off my mind because I was worried about her. She's just 16 months, so kind of still puppy stage, and I was very concerned, but she's doing better now, so that's putting me in a better mood.
Well, that's good. I guess all y'all were sick for a little bit in that household.
Well, it's been, back and forth, but I got it the worst. I really did. Yeah, well, the dog was hurt more than sick. She was actually injured. So not, as far as I know, sick. She hasn't been sneezing every now and then, but dogs do get sick. So you're right. It could have happened. But I'm really glad you're on. It's always great to end the week with Carlos Childs, the Left-Handed Leftist, and we have the link to your YouTube, and I know you broadcast on lots of platforms, but YouTube channel is in the link to this particular video. I have a lot of slides. I always do, Carlos, but before we even get into that, I do want to just put a shout out to my guest yesterday, Ethan Wechtuluk, who's running in District 6 against McLean, Delaney, and Trone, the two most recent. They both have been Congress members from that district, and they're both multimillionaires. And Wechtuluk, I think, is a much better choice. You had some breaking news though about McLean Delaney's campaign.
Oh yes, that it was recently announced. I actually saw it on Instagram on AIPAC's channel. Is that April McLean Delaney? Was recently endorsed by AIPAC as well. So the worst is getting worse out there.
I'm not surprised. She is the incumbent. She has certainly been a staunch supporter of the Zionist state. But David Trone, I mentioned to you, I think he's considered a member. He is a donor. He's been a longtime donor. He may have stopped giving. He did criticize AIPAC, to be fair to Trone, in the wake of the reprisals by Israel, the full-on genocide in response to October 7th. He was critical, and he may have stopped giving. And on that particular note, you and I actually both voted for him over Angela Alsobrooks last year. And that was tough for me. I debated not voting at all, but I decided I thought he might be a little less evil, as you put it.
Yeah, I hate doing the whole, what is it, better of two evils, but this is one I gave in. I mean, look, he's a corporate Democrat. She's a corporate Democrat, or Angela Alsobrooks is a corporate Democrat as well. I think it was just he was a little bit less corporate on certain issues, like he was for canceling student loan debt, and I think that was the only progressive thing he had going for him then. And then it's kind of sad. Him versus April Delaney is weird too, because he to me it just has that desperate look of just, I want to be in office, so like I want a seat. For her, she kind of got it because of her husband's name to a point too, because her husband used to be the Congress member. Hopefully there is some actual change in that district and in that area. And to my knowledge, neither of them even live in the district.
That's right. That's a point Ethan Wechtuluk made on the show yesterday. By the way, say that 8 times fast. Wechtuluk, Ukrainian name. And I was telling my mom about that. She said Polish, and I said, well, Ukraine. She said close. A lot of times the Polish names have like a ski at the end, like Polanski or something of that nature. So I think that's how I can tell the difference sometimes between some of those Eastern European countries. Ethan was really good. He said he's totally against funding Israel in any way, supports Medicare for all. So I would have otherwise not voted in that race, but I think I'm going to re-register as a Democrat. Currently, I'm a Green, Carlos. I'm a Green.
Oh, wow.
But I will
You actually switched your registration and everything.
I did. I really did. Yeah.
Hey, Hal, you're serious about this?
I really am. I really am. Oh, you know what? I actually will not switch back, and here's why. I can't vote in that race. I don't live in that district.
Oh, okay.
So
okay. I forgot you're in whose district? Raskin's district.
Raskin, right?
Yeah. Hey, I got it worse. I'm in Steny Hoyer's district.
You do have it worse. And Wetschluck had some rather choice words for Hoyer, saying Hoyer is a huge problem. He's really enforces a corporate Dem mindset in the state, and if you don't embrace that pro-corporate policies, then he's going to do everything possible to torpedo you.
Wow. Okay, I need to see this then. I was wondering, you know how you probably know the answer to this. Hoyer wasn't a supporter of Donna, what's her name? Edwards, was he?
No.
Okay.
Well, Donna Edwards ran against Van Hollen.
Yeah.
And then she ran against Glenn Ivey, right? So she ran for Senate against Van Hollen, and that was a tough call for me. Actually, I liked them both. That wasn't a lesser of two evils. At the time, I ultimately chose Van Hollen, and then I regretted it for a while. But now I'm disliking him much less, and starting to like him more. I would have voted for Donna Edwards every day of the week against Glenn Ivey, but.
Yeah, I mean, we really didn't. Looking back, I don't think anyone thought Chris Van Hollen would be the Chris Van Hollen of today. Now, to me personally, the whole Medicare for all thing coming out of him and the Democratic Party, I'm kind of not here for that as much. It seems like, okay, we all have been at the party. So glad that you decided to finally RSVP and get your ticket to come. But that's a whole nother thing. Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect him to be like this rhetorically. I think I'm still waiting for the votes to match up with the rhetoric with him. But hey, there's always, I guess, room to improve.
I think your point about Medicare for all is really good too, Carlos, because it's much easier to say I'm for Medicare for all when there's a Republican president, when Congress is in Republican hands. There's zero chance anything's going to come to fruition. So, you can sound good without actually costing your donors anything. But I will give Van Hollen this prop. If you look at the Stop AIPAC website, they have the little, badges of dishonor where they show how much money. I think Glenn Ivey and Sarah Elfreth both collected millions, each one millions and millions from AIPAC. There's a green background for Van Hollen, 0.
Oh, wow.
I give him credit for that. No money.
Yeah, here's one thing. I give you credit for not taking any money from AIPAC. But then when I line that up with you voting to send them weapons, then that makes me a little bit more confused. And so you're not even taking money from them. Is it an ideological thing? Is it love? Look, I don't want your money. I just don't want to face you through a primary process. I don't know. It's just weird to me for that. But hey, it is good that he doesn't take money from AIPAC.
The bar is so low. Isn't it? I mean, it's so low.
I don't even think it's a bar at this point. It's just can you just step over the ground and then we can get you there? We can do something.
Yeah, it's really upsetting. So I like Dawn Edwards. I hope she gets back into it. I don't think she's running against Glenn Ivey. We talked about some of the other candidates. Mentioned Ethan Wetschluck. Another race, where there does appear to be a good progressive option in the Dem primary is that District 4 against Glenn Ivey. And Jakia Johnson strikes me. She's come out. She said no to AIPAC money. She is for funding Israel. That's my most important issue right now, along with and number 2 would be healthy Maryland or Medicare for all if you're running in Congress. And I think she's good on both of those. I think she's certainly good on the Israel as far as that goes. So.
Okay. I mean, I'm looking at her website and her endorsements right now. She's been endorsed by Prince George's for Palestine, Candidate for the People for Money Out of Politics, and then Citizens Against AIPAC Corruption. So she's been endorsed by some good anti-war organizations. Also, someone named Anthony Field, a former congressional candidate. I'm not sure who that is, but yeah. So she has some good endorsements. She has some
Is
good.
that your district? Are you for?
No, I'm Steny Hoyer 5.
Okay. And he's running again. He's going to run again, that guy.
He is?
He isn't? Am I wrong?
I don't. So I've heard two mixed things. I've heard from some people he's not, that they don't think he's going to run again. I've heard some people say that because he hasn't said anything yet, that he is going to run again. One person I was talking to was saying that if Steny Hoyer doesn't decide to run again, it's a good chance he'll wait until the very last day, endorse someone for it, and then that's when their name will come on the ballot, and then he'll just go away that way.
And we've seen Democrats pull that sleazy stuff, right? Where they there's some incumbent and nobody really wants to challenge them, and then the last day, I think Chuy Garcia did that in Illinois. Did you hear that story? He's always been kind of a progressive champ. Okay. And the last day when you could announce your candidacy, look it up while I'm talking because my hands are busy right now.
No, go ahead.
Jesus Chuy Garcia announced he wasn't running. That same day, his chief of staff, or I don't know, his niece. Now it wasn't quite his niece, but someone close to him did file, and she was basically the only person running.
Oh yeah. Here it is. Yeah, it's a whole articles about how he said he did nothing wrong amid election subversion accusations. Yeah, that seems to me so anti-democratic to be you know what? Let me just go ahead and just help slide this person in. And I think that there should be criticism of not just the elected official who did that, but also the candidate who they're doing it for. Because is it so that you would not be doing this unless that person gave you their quote unquote blessing for it? But also to me, that is a criticism of this wait your turn politics, that you try to wait until someone leaves office, and then you wait, and then it's oh, they had another candidate in mind already. And I think the reason that so many elected officials or candidates wait until somebody is going to step down, because they're hoping either to get that incumbent support, or they're hoping to just not have that candidate have the that person involved, to think that, hey, maybe they'll just let it be an open primary and whatever. And I think this is really showing that if you want to run, you just got to get in there and just run.
I think the biggest problem is the voters. We just are too willing, eager to just keep electing the same old. And I do mean old, year after year. And that is a big, big problem. I'm going to see if I can get this up screen, because I found out this story, I think, from Chris Cillizza. I was watching his podcast. I don't always, love Chris Cillizza, or Cillizza, I guess. But I looked this story up, and I think he covered it exactly right. Garcia, who has been one of the most reliable progressive voices, has really been a pretty strong at least pro-worker voice from Chicago. And just really strangely, in my opinion, you can see here, this is from Eyewitness News there, Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, who is a more conservative Democrat, much more conservative generally than Garcia, and not a fade, criticized him, though, saying that the way he withdrew, look at that, his handpicked successor was the only Dem registered to run for the seat. Just not acceptable. There's just no way that's okay. I don't even have the name. They don't put the name. The person was so unknown that this, by the way, also happened slightly different here in Montgomery County, Carlos, where one of our council members, county council members, who's actually a neighbor of mine, he stepped down. Gabriel Albornoz stepped down the day after it would have been required to have a special election. So because there's less than one calendar year between now and the next election, or he stepped down November 13th or something. Wow. That meant that there would just be an appointment. This vacancy would be filled by, I guess, the council itself will choose who they want, I believe, to fill it.
I think that's similar.
The voters.
I think that's similar to what's also happening in, I think it's Gaithersburg, I think, where Judd Ashman ran for his mayoral seat again against Tiffany Kelly, who was challenged him, and I think Ashburn was like a 20-year incumbent mayor and won the seat, and then like a few days to like a week after announced he's resigning to run for county council in whatever district he's in, but did it in a window now that the city gets to appoint the mayor, the city council. And I'm thinking, when like that, just to me screams just corruption. It screams like we need to have the same type of people in place. And to me, that should be one, it should be some type of regulation against that. Two, it needs to be some type of like voters should look at that when it comes to his council race and say, you're just vying for yourself. Also, he is so unsupportive of rent stabilization is like one of the things he just hates to a core.
He is really bad. He also has been caught contemplating ways to suppress speech. He wants to keep the Montgomery Peace Action chapter from being able to march in future Gaithersburg parades because they had signs supporting Palestine. And one of the attendees apparently complained that they felt unsafe, right? That because they saw signs that said, "We support Palestine," this attendee thought they were, I don't know, felt unsafe. I'm not a big believer in letting people's claimed feelings determine what we should or shouldn't do regarding policy. I mean, unless it's really reasonable. I don't think that's a reasonable feeling. Now, I want to just worry this a little more with Judd Ashman, Carlos, because a friend of ours is running against Judd Ashman. And when I say friend, I mean a real friend, somebody that we both know personally, someone who's actually been to my house. I don't know that she's ever been to your house, but no. Zola has been to my house. We have spent a lot of time together, and I really like her. There you can see her. So and Carlos, I'm also, just to throw even more water on this or more fuel on this fire, I'm now a part of the Our Revolution Montgomery steering committee or whatever board. Really? I don't know, whatever the titles are. Again, we have taken a position, which I support. We will only endorse candidates who formally oppose the Maryland Israel Development Center.
Wow. I like that. That's good.
Yeah. We don't want our tax money going to support Israeli companies that are part of the genocide. And they are. These are companies that do, create software that the Israeli army uses to target Palestinians both in Gaza and on the West Bank and in Israel itself.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Our Revolution, like just any Our Revolution chapter, is taking that stance and approach. So no, that's amazing.
We've moved a little bit to the left in recent months. Zola has been a leader in Rockville. She came to prominence by pushing aggressively rent stabilization, and it was a great campaign that she led and won. And then she got elected to the Rockville City Council. It's very, very impressive. But she refuses point blank to issue a statement on the Maryland Israel Development Center. She just won't come out against it. And part of that is her besties on the council are Kristen Mink and Will Jawanda. And it would embarrass them, frankly, if she came out against it, since they voted for it. There's other factors too. She may be afraid of alienating well-heeled Zionist donors and pushing them towards Judd Ashman. On
I feel
the
like
issues,
when the Zionist donors already be over there, like
right. Yeah, but maybe even more, maybe some sort of a pact that targets her directly. Maybe they spend even more money. Maybe she's just trying to keep a lower profile. I really don't know. I've asked her to come on my program. She won't. She asked me for a campaign contribution. I did attend her kickoff party and gave because I was attending it. But I told her that I would only contribute, and I would contribute to the max if she issued a public statement against the Maryland Israel Development Center. She won't do that. By the way, same with very, very sadly, Debbie Spielberg, another candidate I like and I would like to support, but will not do that. Here's my question to you, Carlos. Should that, in your view, should this be a litmus test? And you said you like it, but what about when you're running against somebody like Ashman, who's even more, who's an aggressive Zionist, who's aggressively pro-Israel, who's trying to suppress speech, and as you just said, is much worse on rent control?
No, you're right. And this may be a crazy way to look at it. I take rent control, rent stabilization out of it because Montgomery County already passed it. So in my mind, that's already kind of a dead issue. So that's not a good sign for that. I subscribe to the theory of she needs to put her, or all the candidates need to actually stake a claim on whether they support this or oppose it, because it could start with the Israeli project, the development project, and then it can grow into a Judd Ashman type of, okay, now we don't need to have these groups speaking. Like, where does it stop? If you don't draw a line in the sand, it can always keep extending further and further to where, what if one day, and I would hate to see this, you see one of the Montgomery County council members put together some kind of statement that like pro-Zionist speech is hate speech, or anti-Zionist speech is hate speech, and then you have the quote unquote progressive members of the council vote in favor of it just because they don't want to. They have that same mentality of, well, I don't want to alienate people and all that. So where does it stop? So there has to be some level of, hey, this is where I stand on this issue. This is where I stand on this. Now, to your question about a litmus test, I agree with litmus tests. I think that that's the only way that we know who actually supports us and who doesn't. I see this as a good litmus test because it sets a standard of where people are. And I think that while some people may look at, well, this is a litmus test that will show that more Zionists come out to support her, it'll also show that the more anti-war people and more pro-Palestinian people will come and support her and come and support her. So, I mean, you get one or the other.
I agree in the end. I just cannot support somebody who won't publicly oppose the Maryland Israel Development Center. This seems to me, as we were talking about, a very low bar. It doesn't seem to me that it should be hard to say that. Same. I get that, this is a county with a pretty sizable Jewish group population, and they're affluent, and the more affluent Jews are the ones who are most likely to support Israel. But I think you can get an awful long way by opposing it, by saying that I'm the candidate who speaks up, who stands for my values. And look at Zoran, right? I mean, he won in the most Jewish city in the world outside of Israel. So
yeah,
I feel, and it's very tough for me because I do really like Zola. Yeah, I mean,
she's a great person.
She really is, but when I see her not taking a stand, it's also painful to me. To be perfectly honest with me, it's very upsetting to me.
Yeah, you feel like you have these expectations of what someone is going to do and how they're going to vote, how they're going to act, and then when you see it and it doesn't match up, it feels some type of way sometimes. But that's why I always separate out the people from the candidates, and I view, like, I have a good relationship with you as a person. When you're a candidate, that is a totally separate relationship. Like even the elected officials that I know who I'm cool with, I don't talk like if we're just having a personal conversation, I won't bring up like politics and what's going on. But I want you to also know, like, I can switch that real quick when we're at a council meeting, commissioner meeting, when we're at any type of thing too. But I also think I try not to have as personal relationships with elected officials as, just regular people, because you're an elected official. I can't really be your friend.
That's a great point. By the way, subscribe now. Just do it again. Make sure you subscribe to Halitics. Subscribe to the Left-Handed Leftist as well. And if you only can subscribe to one, then I think you know where you
subscribe to Halitics.
But otherwise,
subscribe to one, subscribe to Halitics.
Best to subscribe to both, and also click like. Please, any comments always welcome, positive and or negative. I just a quick vignette, and then we're going to get into some of these vetoes. I'm really curious too, because you were talking about, we have litmus tests. We want our electeds to vote the way we want, and we did see the Maryland legislature In fact, you touted them, you praised them for vetoing a couple of bills that should not have been vetoed in both of our opinions. So I'm wondering if now you're like going to be like, yay, Maryland Black Caucus, they're great, we love them, because you've been critical of them in the past and of all the Democrats, but specifically the Black Caucus. So I'm curious about whether you've done a complete 180 at this point, Carl. But
maybe like a 10-degree shift. So
let me just, before we get to that, yeah, and that's the same for me, by the way, 10-degree shift. I just want to talk about politicians, because when I did radio, I used to have this guy on. He's very well known, certainly in the state of California, Bill Monty. He became the president of the California Senate, one of the most powerful people in the entire state. That's a very, very influential office, obviously. So Bill, when I first met him, and by the way, let me turn off that like there. When I first met Bill, I don't believe he was even in the California legislature at all. He was running, or he was planning a run. I really liked Bill. He had been part of the Chavez group that Cesar Chavez, the great, the fruit pickers in United Fruit, I believe is what they're called.
Dolores Huerta's group too, and all that.
Yeah, Dolores Huerta, exactly. Because she was, I guess, Chavez's mom, sister. Not sure the relationship, but she was maybe there was no personal no family relationship, but certainly, yes, he was close to Dolores Huerta, very, very progressive, labor leader, lawyer, and we support him from the day one on that radio station that I owned, KRXA 540. I used to have Bill on every Monday. It was Mondays with Bill, and we would take calls, and he was great. He would come on even after he got elected, and then he and I had a break on an issue. He supported, he was taking a position on this land that Fort Ord is a decommissioned fort. And there were a lot of environmental concerns. And we also wanted to build a veteran cemetery. But there was a specific spot on Fort Ord that would have been, I believe, and the environmental community did not want it built on, because it was fragile and it was needed to be preserved. And Bill, there was a lot of pressure from the developers who were going to build the cemetery, from the veterans groups who wanted the cemetery built forthwith. And he took a stance that was not only opposed to what I believe was the better position, the environmental position. He attacked us. He criticized us. He said that we were acting in bad faith. And I confronted him on that on the air. And he was very upset. He was taken aback. I mean, he shouldn't have been, because he knew I disagreed with him. I told him in advance. And after that, a relationship, we're still friends. He's come on this program. He's actually come on Halitics. But it was always a little chillier. He didn't like that.
No, you're right. You're right. And I think it's, wow. I think it's also, well, one, I'm surprised he was surprised, given if you're going to criticize you, like, why wouldn't I respond to that? But then
he would have said, I wasn't criticizing you, Hal. Personally, I was criticizing the environmentalists who opposed the building the veteran cemetery in that spot. But he knew, of course, I supported the environmental.
He was criticizing, I guess, not you personally. He was criticizing your activism, which a lot of people, we do say kind of personally. like it's a part of our lives too. It's just hard to it's hard to be friends with elected officials. And I think it's even worse when you either live in their district, their state, or they represent you in some type of way, because it's also like, I have to hold you accountable, because at the end of the day, you still work for the people who you represent. So it's like, I can't totally be friends with you, because if I'm friends with you, then I start saying, okay, well, they're a nice person, but they just have these bad views on like X, Y, and Z. And then it goes into, now my litmus test is gone because I have a personal relationship with you, and I think of you in this high regard. It's a lot of people I think of in high regard that I don't think should be representing anyone. I think you should just be a private citizen and be in high regard.
Yeah, I mean, it's even thinking back on that time, it was a little bit uncomfortable. It really was. And he did criticize me personally in this sense. He questioned my motives, right? He questioned the motives of those of us who opposed the placement of the cemetery. He said we weren't acting in good faith. And I can't remember. This was 10 years ago, so I don't remember all the deets, but it was upsetting. That said, I still have great regard for Bill, and I think he did a really nice job. But we had a falling out over that issue. Okay, let's talk about these vetoes here. Maryland lawmakers override vetoes on reparations, and then also on data centers and climate studies. Carlos, give us the blow by blow. Tell us your reaction to this and what it means.
Yeah, so there was a special session called this week. One of the first matters was to replace Delegate Adrian Jones as the Speaker of the House. She stepped down, and then Delegate Jocelyn Pena-Milnick was actually voted in as Speaker.
All right, I'm going to stop you right there because I asked about vetoes, but you brought up a really important issue as well. Mm-hmm. What do you think about Jocelyn Pena-Milnick?
Oh, I think she's I think she is definitely a much needed change from the Adrian Jones regime, as you could call it. She is definitely someone that's seen as a more progressive person. I don't know if I would say full on like leftist, like a Acevero or like a Jill Carter type, but she's definitely a progressive voice. She's someone who is even framing herself as a like kind of freedom of speech in the way of like no group within the Maryland House of Delegates should be sectioned off. Like you see progressives kind of get sectioned off, even Republicans get sectioned off and people not really care. And then the power of the committee chairs and the more centrist or corporatized part of the Democratic Party in Maryland kind of be the ones who kind of get pushed up. Jocelyn has always been seen as someone who's like, I don't care what your views are, you're always going to have like a place to say how you feel and have lively debate and things like that too. So I think she's a really good member of to be Speaker.
That's really, really good to hear, Carlos, because I have been less hopeful, less optimistic about Pena-Milnick than you, but when you're telling me this, you're somebody whose opinion I really credit.
Well, thank you.
So I am more optimistic that she will be, a pro-worker, pro-poor, and advocate for the people who aren't doing well in Maryland right now. So that's really exciting news. And then let me ask you to follow up on that. Mm-hmm. Why do you think she got this if she is prepared to? Because, we've seen how the Democrats consistently bow down at the altar of the lobbyists and the corporatists. Why were they willing in this case to stand up to that?
One reason, and this is more of my like speculation, just some of the conversations I've been having, is that this was almost like a revolt against the factional sides of the House of Delegates who've been running things, because we saw when the word came out that Jocelyn Pena-Milnick was going to be the next speaker, you saw Vanessa Atterbury step down and actually resign from her seat as a delegate and also as the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. Delegate C.T. Wilson, he was actually trying to be speaker as well. He took his name out the hat and was saying that it's a lot of people who are trying to get rid of him and remove him from his chairmanship as well. You have Jazz Lewis, who after the vote also announced that he's resigning from office as well. And it seems like all of the kind of heavy hitters that were under the Adrian Jones wing, who people also have said allegedly that they are the more kind of like, what's the word? For lack of a better word, the more like dictatorship type of people that look, my committee runs the way I want them to, very like for again lack of better word, vindictive. legislators, I think that this was kind of revolt against them to say, hey, we're tired of feeling like these certain people have control over large swaths of the delegates, the House of Delegates. So this was kind of like Jocelyn, to me, probably seemed like more of a kind of not compromised person, but someone who could kind of put all that to the side and actually allow people to be their own people.
Well, she definitely has good relationships with some of the leftists or the more progressive members. There's no question about that compared to some of the other delegates you mentioned, Carlos. So that is a real positive. And I'm glad to hear that. I've always felt like Delegate Peña Melnick, my concern with her is that she's always really been, I think, trying to steer a middle course, a compromiser. She hasn't been willing to stand out. But that said, she has steered a course that's farther to the left than a Vanessa Atterbury, for example. I don't know some of the other delegates as well that you mentioned, but Atterbury was a real heavy hitter. House Ways and Means is a very powerful committee. So I don't think that's a loss for the state that she is no longer going to be chairing that committee. Yeah.
Let her become Howard County's problem to deal with. And people were saying that if she knew that Adrian Jones was going to step down, that people were always speculating she would try to take over as speaker as well. So it's good that she's no longer doing this. And look, I would even say for C.T. Wilson, he's a very centrist and conservative member of the House of Delegates, and was a very centrist and conservative and even argumentative chair of the his committee, Economic Matters, as well.
I didn't realize, though, you had used the word vindictive at one point. My sense was C.T. Wilson was not that person, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. I would err politically. Yeah, he was a very kind of like, he was a very tit for tat person. You did something against him, he's going to come out against you. It's one of those.
So disappointing. Yeah, that's what we like on the left consistently, and I think correctly, attack Trump for, right? It's just about loyalty. It's just about doing what I want you to do. And as long as you name the Kennedy Center, Trump Kennedy Center, I'll make sure things are great for you.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible, terrible public servant. That's a tyrant is what that is. And I'm sorry to hear that about C.T. Wilson. Didn't we have C.T. Wilson on one time? Is he a train guy? Is he the train guy?
No, he's not the train guy.
Who was the train guy?
C.T. Wilson. Arthur Ellis. Arthur Ellis.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Yep, that's who we had.
Is that? Did I confuse them because they're both from the same district?
Yep. They're both from my district. Actually, it's funny. Yeah. Arthur Ellis is the state senator, and C.T. Wilson is the delegate in that situation. Yep. Totally different people, how they operate too.
But Ellis ain't no lefty either.
No. No. He's not. None of the, outside of Deborah Davis, I would say none of the Charles County delegation is leftist. It's actually going to be interesting to see what happens, because there's a open seat that's going to be appointed from from Kevin Harris's former district, 27A, because Michael Jackson got put up to be the head of the police throughout the state. So now Kevin Harris got his seat. Dominoes fall as they do with these things.
All right, let's get back to those vetoes after we went into the politics a little bit, which I enjoyed the conversation very much. Carlos, you're pleased about the reparations veto. There's going to be a commission now that will study how best to what is the actual mission of this this commission?
Yeah, so the commission is put together to study what policies, legislation, money, and what appropriation should happen if Maryland does institute reparations. So while most studies that have been talked about just study the effects, the harms, who went through X, Y, and Z, this is actually putting a policy down on paper, if there are cash payments, how much they should be, who should they go to, if there is home loans that should go out, how much should it be, where should the money come from. It's very programmatic to say, here's how we're going to fund this, here's where the funds should come from, and then here's how it should be targeted towards helping people, and here's how it would help people, which is the first time this has been done in Maryland. So it's really good to see this. And then I think it's really good to also see what they come up with, because I think with the timing of the commission, this would be the session after the first election here, or the midterms here in Maryland too. So it'll be really interesting to see when the commission comes out with their report, what legislators choose to do with it. Do they strengthen it? Do they keep it what the commission says? Do you have certain legislators who are trying to weaken it? And this veto override passed mostly around partisan basis. You had Republicans who didn't want to talk about it. You had Democrats who just voted for it. And yeah, I mean, you saw the governor trying to kind of skirt around it by saying, okay, we're going to put out our own things that happen that we're going to do for quote unquote low income communities, more general things and more helping everyone, not specifically descendants of slavery too.
So I want to get into the politics there with more, because this has been at least reported that it's a bad look for Westmore. I want to get into that in a moment. But I just was curious, does the legislation specify that certain people or all descendants of slaves should be beneficiaries, or you have to make a recommendation as to which particular descendant should get it? I'm just curious, and that's not the only question I have. Is it only descendants of slaves who are supposed to be, recipients? Because and the reason that can become important too is because you might have a community that the great majority of the people who live in the community, or a majority of the people in the community, are descendants of slaves, but there are also people who came after slavery. They may be African, they may be white, they might be immigrants. Do they? You see what I'm saying? Are the beneficiaries only supposed to be American descendants of slaves? What about if you're a descendant of slaves from Jamaica or Brazil? I mean, there's so many different, and I don't know the answers. I don't know if you do, but I'm just really curious about all that.
I would say I don't know the specific answers to that. I don't believe that they are targeted towards people who were not ancestors or people who were not descendants of slavery in America or the United States. I don't think it affects people who are descendants of slavery from the Caribbean and places of that nature as well. But I'm not 100% sure. And I think that's going to be on the commission too, to figure out how do they target this program? Who does it go to? How does the state even determine who is a descendant of slavery and who's not as well?
Yeah, these really interesting questions. And
one thing I am trying to do too is get Alethea McCaskill on to a delegate McCaskill to come on my podcast and talk about the override, talk about the legislation, how it's going to be set up and all that, because I think a lot of people have those questions too.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. And I think that those questions are exactly why commission makes sense, right? Because, obviously if there's going to be a transfer either of money or whatever, however it's going to be done, we really, want it to be thought out well and done in a way that benefits people who need the help. And also, I think has to be presented in a way that's transparent, so folks who aren't getting benefits aren't resentful and understand the purpose of the transfer. Let me ask you about Westmore and the politics of all of this.
Okay.
Was this? Did either does Moore perceive this as a direct rebuke to him, either by the Black Caucus or by the Democratic Caucus at large, which is not predominantly Black, but obviously sided with the Black Caucus, which pushed this legislation to begin with?
I think there are probably some feelings behind it too, especially as the governor set up this what is it? He set up this like pack slate he's doing to run candidates called the Leave No One Behind slate. I definitely think he's going to be targeting some of the people who came out with the legislation, or one of the big out loud people around the vetoes. But I will say I think that in Maryland, it's not going to harm him too much, just because he's the governor, and Maryland is a very incumbent friendly state. I'll say that. I think if Westmore plans to either be the president or vice president, I think that's going to come up nationally about him vetoing not only reparations, because I do think that's going to hurt him when it comes to the Black community to try to get support. I think also when it comes to him vetoing the data center study, I think that's going to be a real problem for him too. I think also the climate study. So he's going to have environmentalists coming out against him. He's going to have people who are either anti-capitalism, anti-big tech, and anti kind of these data centers, which kind of it's pushing up more that the populace is more anti-data center. I think he's going to face opposition along that line. But also, Westmore is a centrist, corporatist type of Democrat too. So I mean, he's kind of doing what people of his ideology do normally.
Is Westmore a little behind schedule? In other words, are the policies that he espouses kind of 2020, 2012, not 2026 at this point, 2028, you think?
I don't know about that, because I also know it's a lot of corporatized Democrats who agree just with that. So I personally think the same platform of the Democratic Party from 2008 to 2012 to 2016 to 20 to now 24 and 25 now, I think has been the same. The corporates have been the same. The only thing that they change on is maybe these cultural type of things. Outside of that, Westmore is very much the same as the other aforementioned Democrats. I think that one thing it also shows is that the legislature is not afraid to separate themselves from Westmore, which you see a lot, which you don't really see as much happen when it comes to legislatures and the governor, if they're from the same party as well. But I'll also say, I think what really highlights this is that Maryland has a supermajority of Democrats. So to a point, you don't want to have a legislature who feels almost scared of the governor when they're of the same party. And I think that the legislator has actually done a service to more by kind of compromising compromising on some things themselves, because we have to say, if Hogan was still the governor, I feel like all the legislation that is presented would be a lot stronger, because they're making their claim to make Hogan look.
They've watered bills down, is what you're saying, to placate more. Doesn't Moore run a real risk if he's going to take on lawmakers who bucked him by this leave no voter behind nonsense? Doesn't he really run a huge risk that he's going to alienate the very people he needs? And if he can't beat them, right? If he loses, then there's going to be very little fear, I would think, among these lawmakers of the governor.
Oh yeah, I think if he challenges someone, I think he better win, because I think that will just go more into that road of, well, you know what? I was at first just not going to speak up bad about him. Okay, now I really don't care, because now we're showing that you're coming for my safety and my seat. Now I'm going out guns blazing, metaphorically. I think that if he's going to get into a race, he better do everything he can to win. And I hope the people who he goes after, they do a good job of not losing to his slate either, because it's been reported that he's coming after the more progressive members of the Black Caucus and just of the General Assembly in total.
Yeah, I think Moore is putting, he's definitely running, walking a tightrope at this point. Even with the data centers, as you've mentioned before, Carlos, this is a unifying issue. People hate these data centers. They don't want them. Republican communities are turning out at town halls and giving their Republican Congress members an earful. They're giving senators and state senators and delegates the business because they're supporting these, and almost certainly for corrupt reasons, right? Their pockets are being lined by big tech and by the utility companies that profit. We see this in Montgomery County here, this ag reserve. You see the decommissioned coal plant. Talked about this with Ethan yesterday. And now the Montgomery Council, all Democrats, has basically rolled out the welcome mat for this.
Wait. Can you explain that? Or real quick, before you explain that, and one thing too is the override for the data center study was actually passed on a bipartisan basis. I believe all the whole House and Senate, maybe all Republicans and Democrats voted to override this together. So it definitely shows a good sign for that. But can you explain this more? So is it? Are they turning? Yeah, go ahead and explain what's going on.
I'm glad you pointed out how Moore's veto was overridden, which means they will have to jump through a lot more hoops and show that there isn't going to be permanent harm to the environment if they build these data centers. There will be, of course, if they do. And also, the whole impact, the climate change impacts are now, that was also vetoed, right? Reversed. The veto was reversed, that you do have to do these impact studies to find out just how Maryland's going to be harmed by climate change writ large. The ag reserve is kind of a belt in outer Montgomery County, which is a very large county here where I live, and kind of the more rural areas farther away from the center, DC, in South Montgomery County, have been zoned for agriculture use. And there are a lot of farms, and farms can't be broken up. They can't be cut into little parcels for real estate development, which the farmers don't really like, particularly because obviously they could make money, but it really is a good thing at keeping the land somewhat, undeveloped to a degree. In that land, though, there was this giant coal plant, which was befouling the air, and you'd often see it. Not where you lived exactly, Carlos, but maybe driving out 270, you would see the smoke coming out of it. It was horrible, and it stopped. Now they don't use it anymore. So the owners of the land want to lease it to. I'm not quite sure exactly who's going to lease it, but they're going to build this giant data center there. They're going to build two on the property. There's room apparently for two. They can put parking lots. They can what have you. It's going to consume a huge amount of energy and add a lot to the traffic in the area. More pollution from the cars, from the exhaust. The roads will be oversaturated. It's a terrible thing, and every Democrat is supporting this, as I understand it. None of them are opposing it, but hopefully that veto will reduce the likelihood it will ever happen.
And that's another conversation that needs to happen with all of these candidates running for county councils, running for board of commissioners, where you stand on data centers. Because I'll say, in Prince George's County, they're having their own thing with when it comes to the Landover redevelopment and also legislation that they just recently passed to put a pause on it until the study comes out. But the study that happened, and it kind of allows data centers to move forward just in certain ways. Charles County, where I'm from, is also battling with the zoning text amendment for data centers. A lot of coalition groups are coming out against this as well. So I think data centers is going to be heavy in the 2026 General Assembly session, but also in the 2026 primaries too. Is going to be, are you for data centers or are you against them? And then also people are going to have to say, what does you being against them look like? Because yeah, I think you're gonna have a lot of legislators who say, I think we should study it first. Let's just look at it as a way to kind of placate people until they get in there, and then be like, well, yeah, let's just go ahead and do it. And I think you have a lot of legislators who are talking about it as, well, it's a great way to bring money into the county, and they're not looking at this the same way as putting in these like coal plants went. Okay, we all put in all these coal plants, and then we're like, okay, now we realize they're not good for the environment. They're harming people, but also we need to shut them down. So now we're like, where do we get the money from? And also, these AI data centers, they're a bubble. At a certain point, they're going to pop. Right. And then now the counties are going to be left with these huge empty buildings of like land that you can't even use for anything. And then you can't turn the building into anything. But also all the junk that's going to come from these servers expiring and things like that, they're all going to go into landfills, and the chemicals are just going to leach into the ground.
Yeah, all the mercury and all that. Carlos, I just want to correct something I said. I said that the Democratic Party in Montgomery County was rolling out the Welcome Act. That really wasn't fair. I don't have all the information. I understand that at least one of the candidates for executive, Evan Glass, has called for more transparency, as he puts it. So I take that back. I withdraw that statement completely. I will look much more closely into where Montgomery County council members and candidates for office stand on data centers. But I do want to point. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What does that mean? We need more transparency, because people say that a lot when it also means just print out the report and we'll show it. We're still going to do it, but just, I know, for shits and giggles.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. It's kind of a wishy-washy statement, but nevertheless, I can't state with any, I mean, even asking for greater transparency is not full-throated support. No. And I'm not sure where the other candidates stand and the other council members. So the only one I really know for sure has the wrong position on this issue is Marilyn Balcombe. And I have issues with her already because she has said flat out to my face she doesn't take any position with respect to whether funding the Maryland Israel Development Center is moral, if it's right. She's not going to criticize Israel on humanitarian grounds. The only thing she cares about is whether it's legal. And I feel like that's an incredible abrogation of her responsibility as an elected official, which is to do what's right, not necessarily just what's legal. Mm-hmm. That said, her position on data centers is equally idiotic, is the only way I can put it. Here's what she says. I'm not opposed to the use of data, so I can't be opposed to data centers. Okay.
That's like saying, that is just like saying, well, when I go grilling, I use coal on the grill, charcoal. So why wouldn't I be okay with coal
mine, a giant strip mine? Yeah, a giant pit mine right next door.
Yeah, no, what's the problem?
Yeah, it's.
I put gas in my car, so we should have gas plants everywhere in Montgomery County.
And then here's her other point. She sees an inconsistency in how people talk about the facilities. Discussing municipal waste, they urge more recycling. Well, we do more than just urge more recycling. We say let's have less waste. We say let's produce less. Let's be, much more on the reduce, reuse before we go to recycling. On climate change, they call for energy conservation. Yeah, we do that. But here's what she also adds, Carlos, again, but she really says we should use less data. I don't think that's true. I think we say all the time we should be de-emphasizing computers. But even so, she says, well, hey, if Montgomery County is going to use data, and the alternative is to build it in Frederick or Loudoun, that's not an honest conversation. Yeah, but we're not saying build it in Frederick or Loudoun. We're saying don't build it at all. That's what's dishonest. It's dishonest for her to say, well, it's going to get built somewhere, so we might as well build it here. That's wholly dishonest, Marilyn Balcombe.
I'm trying not to be rude here, because how just like idiotic do you have to be like, that line right there? And it makes sense to hear to hear that Montgomery County's data should be stored within its borders. They're not saying when they put a data center in, oh, we're only getting the data in the border of the county that we do. It's not owned by the government. It's not, because in the previous picture that you showed, she was saying it as like a public utility. It's not like it's going to be government owned and run. It's privately owned, and they're taking data from wherever that company gets their data from. If it's Google, they're taking it from all over. If it's Microsoft, all over, all these other places. So for her to say that is just insane. I mean, like, I don't know whether she thinks that the voters are just ignorant or whether she herself just doesn't know what's going on.
I met her. I can't look. I don't want to cast aspersions. She did not strike me as one of the sharper knives in the drawer. But
I mean, honestly, I don't even think it's a knife anymore. It's more like a spoon, because this is insane. How, like, is insane the level. And here's my thing too. It really shows how little legislators actually think of the people that they represent, because I do not even see a concerted effort to be pro data center. I don't even see there being a grassroots just group of residents who are like, no, we want a data center. It is, I will say there are some unions who are pro the building of data centers just because of the jobs that it brings in construction. I also know that there are some also concerns that the building of them is not going to be done the right way, because these corporations are going to try to go anti-union, or you also have, once it's built, there are no jobs at the center itself. So I just do not see. I think these legislators are hedging their bets on the community. Honestly, just does not care that much, and they're thinking, I hope that all these people just get riled up now, and then they just forget about it. Or if all of us take the same stance on it, they can't target us.
Carlos, we got a call here. Just want to, and I agree with you, we need to be united. I'm going to talk about one last story before we let you go, about ways to maybe unite even with Trump voters, which is, my white whale. That's what I always talk about, is bringing poor, struggling, working, and middle-class people all together to support redistributive policies that will benefit them. But before we get to that, I have a caller, and I have a suspicion this caller may not be calling to speak on Halitics, but rather to ask me to join another call. But who do I have on the line here? Hello? I guess I'm right. I guess they are not calling for Halitics. So we will, thank you for calling. Appreciate it. Call back anytime if you want to talk on Halitics. Carlos, before we let you go, so, Trump has been awful, and I made that the Rob Reiner, right? Like he's such a narcissist. A man is killed by his son, and Trump sees it as somehow, because he had, in Trump's mind, Trump derangement syndrome, that's what caused it. This man is really disturbed. He really is. No, I mean, the narcissism is off the charts. He has to, what is it? It's Trump now, the Trump Kennedy, his hand. Yeah, I mean, so I think this kind of behavior actually hurts him. I really do. I want you to look at this, and I want to get into one more story that is even much more important than Trump Kennedy Center, or even tweeting crudely and crassly about Rob Reiner. But I mean,
I guess at least he kept the Kennedy name in it. I don't know.
I mean, where do you go with this story?
I don't know.
My wife was telling me,
we have a TV show president who thinks of it as like, it's marketing and branding. I think he is. I think he's also cementing himself as like, I'm going to be a part of institutions that people hold in a certain regard outside of just politics. And he's like, I'm going to be in it. I am surprised at this point we don't have a Trump statue somewhere. I think this is it. This is him saying, like, whether you all like me or not, I will be a part of culture going forward in this country after I'm gone. And I think that as spineless and weak as the Democrats are. And I'll say this, my care of Trump renaming it the Trump Kennedy Center is like the lowest on my list of things to care about on my
it just tells you though what he is, right? So shallow, such a narcissist. And also, I think it's really pathetic. I mean, this is a guy who's totally acultural. He's a Philistine, right? He has, like, as far as we can tell, no artistic sentiment whatsoever, which is not the case by way of George W. Bush, who it turns out is a pretty talented painter. I could never paint what he paints. He's apparently pretty talented. I just think it looks pathetic. I think he's ultimately a sad person. He has he must have such an inferiority complex that he has to have his handpicked people name it. And by the way, there was a lot of pushback. Most of the board was against it, but somehow this quorum got together and they turned off all the other microphones on the Zoom call, right? Wow. They muted everyone on a Zoom call, but like 5 people. And then they said, let's vote. Oh, 4-1. Oh, vote. There it is. Trump Kennedy Center.
They said we're gonna name this after this man. Thank you so much. It is insane. I mean, it's insane. I think that he's putting his name on things. I mean, the ballroom thing, to me, it almost wouldn't be as bad if Trump's style was not so like just gold and gaudy looking too. Like he has no sense of like decorum, just style. And I mean, between him and his wife too, they both kind of aren't artistic at all.
No, it's terrible. Well, this is the thing. That's the thing about Obama, right? I mean, he was classy, he was elegant, he looked good in a suit. He was, you could take him anywhere.
Right.
Trump's an embarrassment. It's horrible.
And I think Trump wants something named after him. He wants something named after, because you have quote unquote Obamacare, the Kennedy Center. He's like, I want my thing. Yeah.
Well, he's got Trump derangement syndrome. I guess he can claim that. So this is what is much more important, right? This likely war that he's fomenting to, I guess, distract us from the Epstein files or genocide.
Really think that. I don't agree with that, Hal. No, I think he's doing this out of just pure vengeance, spite kind of person he is. He's like, look, I think he was like, what's something we can do? I think they came to him and talk about how Venezuela's bringing all these drugs, and he's just got on board with it too. I don't think that this is, I do think it coincides with the covering up of the Epstein list, but I think this is a totally separate project, because even with, if it was about that, I think with Maduro coming out and saying, you can take the oil, you can have it, you can have all this, anything you want, you can have it. It is the fact that he's like, I don't want you as president. I don't agree with just, I just want to go to war. Because even, I believe it was reported that Maduro also said, I will leave office. Like, I'm just asking, if I leave office, that the vice president is appointed into becoming president, and then they can have a vote. The citizens can vote, and I'll be done. I think this is Trump like, no, I don't care. I don't care about the oil. That's just a benefit that we're going to get anyway. I want to go to war.
That's really awful. It's really, really, really awful. I did not even know that. I didn't know that there were that Maduro had said, "Hey, I'll step down. Just don't destroy my country." Now, what my point, and what I brought this up because I posted this in the Halitics Facebook group, and I said, "Well, I'll show you why I wanted to share with you all. I think this is kind of clear." So I've had my run-ins with some of the more conservative posters at Halitics, sometimes because of things I've said, and I regret saying that I shouldn't have said. I posted the story here that we just showed that Trump is determined to go to war in Venezuela. I wrote, this is very, very disturbing. I would be surprised if anybody's most rabid MAGA supporters are happy about this. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying most rabid MAGA supporters. He does call them MAGA. I mean, it's Make America Great. They call themselves MAGA. So I don't really have a problem with that. But the response from I guess what they would call themselves a Trump supporter, you do realize that Trump ran an anti-endless war campaign. I absolutely do. Right. I mean, that was one of the reasons I said, hey, the argument that Kamala is clearly better or less bad runs up against the case that Trump at least has talked a better game when it comes to war, especially with Russia. And then she does. They say it would be highly disappointing to us rabid MAGA supporters, as you wish to refer to us. And I don't wish to refer to anyone as that. I'm saying if you are, even if you are, I thought, well, the people who love him are still going to love him. But unless you're one of those people, you're not. And this supporter makes that point. And this is where Democrats need to distinguish themselves on endless war, on Israel, on healthcare. That's where I think they can make real inroads, but they won't because they're backers. They're in the same, they're getting the same money from the same bad actors as the Republicans are.
Have you been hearing the Democratic Congress members' talking points on this? Is that they're not saying we shouldn't go to war with Venezuela at all. They're saying that this is not the president's executive authority. We need a vote by Congress to do this. So it's almost like they're saying, hey, why are we being left out of the war? We want to take part in it. We want to vote for this. I mean, there are illegal airstrikes on boats, on fishermen boats happening. And the Democrats are talking just about Trump needs to go in front of Congress to have a vote for it, rather than them saying we don't want war with Venezuela at all. We don't want to pay for it. We don't want that added. But then also you run up against the what's going on in Russia with the genocide going on in Gaza. So Democrats are not going to make a claim to be anti-war because, like you said, they are funded by the military-industrial complex. So they're thinking we got to keep this ship rocking, and Republicans are too.
There was a bill that would have required Trump to at least get congressional approval that he could no longer take these strikes, that would pass a law specifically. I think they're illegal anyway. I don't think they need a law. I think he should be charged already with violating the law. But the Congress is going to make it explicit. You can't just torpedo boats in open water because you decide you don't like them. You can't start deploying troops into Venezuela. That was a bill that was being debated. And there was, I believe, some Republican support for that bill. But enough Democrats sat it out, didn't vote, that it passed 205, 204, I believe. And it was a questionable vote, too, because there was a Democrat who was just coming in to vote when Mike Johnson closed voting, or it would have. I guess this bill actually passed. There was one bill that did give Trump some authority, and they were going to vote against it. But the Democratic bills to reduce Trump's ability to act unilaterally were defeated, in part because they weren't supported by all the Democrats.
Wow. Okay. I think that we should be on the lookout for these type of bills that only say there needs to be congressional approval, because I think that that's where they can kind of do the whole pressure release on people, like, hey, let's just fight to get congressional approval. And then once Congress approves it, then it's like, hey, we didn't say we weren't going to approve it. We just said you had to come to us first. I think there needs to be, because to me, I see this almost like or actually not almost, as an impeachable offense. You starting a war, like that is a total illegal thing for Trump to do, and could split his own base. I think a lot of his base is kind of the Marjorie Taylor Greene sentiment of like, this isn't what we quote unquote asked for. And I think that you're gonna. I think you could actually. I don't know if you can impeach him or not, but I do think that there could be serious kind of changes within the political system against Trump for this. I mean, yeah, we're going to war for essentially ego and nothing else, because there's nothing else that Maduro has not said he would give the U.S. that they want. Especially the oil has been the biggest thing that they keep talking about.
Well, we'll see. I think, I haven't, to be honest with you, it's so depressing for me. Some of this news, especially the news of war, is so depressing for me, along with the armed thugs in our streets, just arresting people left and right and deporting them. I just sort of shut down, Carlos. I don't want to read about it. I don't want to hear about it. I just can't stand it.
Yeah. The U.S. we're a war profiteer. We thrive off of killing other people, in this horrible, horrible system that we have. I mean, of the military industrial complex is running things here. They run Congress, and people just lock in with them arm step. And I mean, also you look at Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is a staunch anti Venezuela person who you even look at him while he was in as a senator of Florida. A lot of his backers were anti Venezuela. A lot of them are anti Cuba as well, which we know Trump is horrible on.
He's one of the worst, I think, of the Trump cabinet, and that's saying a hell of a lot when you have people like Kristi Noem and their Hegseth. But I put Rubio right there at the bottom with them. I'm not saying he's necessarily, I don't know if he can get any lower than the belly of a snake, but they're all kind of writhing around down there. And Democrats confirmed him unanimously, I believe.
That is in that what I think really shows that, and that's the reason you don't see a lot of them talking about the Venezuela issue in a sense of we do not need to go to war. You see a lot of them just kind of saying you need to go through us first, because these are all the same people who wanted Marco Rubio, knowing his viewpoints when it comes to war. We all, because I remember the discourse in the MAGA side of things. Hey, when Trump nominated him, a lot of MAGA was concerned and freaked out because they said he is pro war. So it wasn't even like a secret. It wasn't like he's a Democrat darling or anything. So there's no reason for Democrats to even support that outright, but they did.
And that's exactly why, Carlos, I just can't jump on the bandwagon that the Republicans or the Republican voters are so immoral or so evil, because what Democrats do is often just so horrible as well. All right, that's going to do it for today's program. Thank you all so much for being part of Halitics. It's always great to have Carlos on. I really just appreciate the fact that he joins me on a weekly basis. Carlos, let's talk off air. I don't know whether you're going to be back. Will be able to join me on Monday. We'll be off starting either probably my last show this year then. So we'll have Carlos Monday. We have a candidate for office in Montgomery County on Tuesday. His name is Wally. And then we'll have the New Year's, we'll have the Christmas Eve special Wednesday, and that'll be my last show of the year. I'll be back after that. And Carlos, I wanted to play a video. I'm going to billboard this. We'll have Nick Fuente's video Monday where he responds to Trump's abusive response to the Rob Reiner killing. I want to get your take on that. Can a groyper be a person too? We will talk Monday.
Yeah, I love it. Let's also talk Monday about what is it? The Democratic or the DNC not publishing its election 2024.
Oh, the postmortem. No postmortem. All right, we'll do. That's all coming up. But now, just have a great weekend.